Welcome back to HPP, the podcast that talks with tomorrow's hoop stars. I am Rich Harris, and thank you for joining us again. Today, I am joined by Joey Bardack and Josh Tischler, two of our brand new interns. They represent the brightest minds here at Hoops Prospects. They also represent the people who get to do the jobs that nobody else wants to do. So Joey, Josh, do you guys, we'll start with you, Joey, go in alphabetical order. Do you want to guys both just introduce yourself a little bit and you can explain why you two were specifically picked for the Big Ten episode?
Hey guys, I'm Joey. I'm a freshman here at Ohio State. Go Buckeyes, hence Ohio State, as most of my knowledge comes from watching Big Ten. Also, my sister went to Maryland, so I've been watching Big Ten hoops for as long as I can remember.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh. I'm from Queens, New York, but I attend Indiana University, big Hoosiers guy. So I think we're excited for a big year. Should be great for the Hoosiers and ready for basketball season.
By the way, folks, he's from Queens and he roots for the Yankees.
That's true. It was a terrible outing yesterday. It was a rough showing. So we move forward. It's basketball season. So.
You know, if I may just talk about the World Series for a little bit, you know, the Dodgers, man, they were just a huge pain in the butt for both my team and your team, my team being the Mets. That team just didn't go away.
It's like, I think the Dodgers played a great series. I mean, obviously the talent was there. You know, Freddie killed us every single game, but there was just the little things that New York couldn't do. It was abysmal. Just that fifth inning, you know, you don't catch a fly ball. Okay, you know, man on first and second. You can't get the guy at third. It's just like all these little things leads up to a tie game, and it's like it's unbearable to see. But you know,
yeah,
it's okay.
I was rooting for the Yanks myself. I figured if the Mets can't win it, want you know the other New York team to win
exactly.
it. But yeah, it wasn't to be. All right, so today we're going to preview the Big Ten, and I will kind of run over what went on last year and what's going on this year. And then when I get done with the review, before we jump into each individual team, I'll see if you guys have any thoughts. In terms of realignment, as you probably know, if you're a football fan, Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington have joined the conference to up the number of total teams to 18. In terms of coaching changes, Dusty May comes over from Florida Atlantic to replace Juwan Howard, and I think we're all in agreement that was long overdue. At Ohio State, Jake Diebler stays on. He was the interim coach. He replaced Chris Holtman toward the end of last season. Chris Holtman, of course, has moved on to DePaul. God bless him. At USC, Eric Musselman comes from Arkansas to replace Andy Enfield, who moved on to SMU. They make it sound like Andy Enfield did this on his own volition, but I think we actually talked toward the end of the season how USC had seemed to always underperform under Andy Enfield.
Right.
So I'm not so sure that wasn't a firing. Washington, Utah State loses their seventh coach in 8 years, seemingly. So Danny Sprinkle comes over and replaces Mike Hopkins, who was also overdue for an extended vacation. Any comments on those coaching changes, gentlemen?
I think it's just like it's about damn time that Juwan Howard is no longer a coach of the University of Michigan. I think bringing in Dusty May, he's had huge success with FAU, bringing a bunch of his guys over. I think that's a great hire for Michigan, and I think I can see him back in the tournament for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We've seen how well May has done at FAU, and I think he'll continue that success in Michigan. Also, I think I speak for all Buckeye fans when we are really excited for the new Diebler era here in Columbus.
Yeah. We'll get into that a little more when we get down. But Howard, I was highly critical of him on multiple occasions because he set a terrible example for his players. There were at least two occasions that we know of, one that was on live TV, where he actually got violent with somebody. And you shouldn't be coaching kids if you can't control your own temper.
Of course.
And actually, that thing that went on with Wisconsin, somebody could have really got hurt bad in that situation. But anyway, all right, so we'll move on. So the regular season champ last year was Purdue, but they did not win the conference tourney. Illinois did, and they went into the NCAA tournament as the auto bid and a 3rd seed. Purdue got a 1 seed, Wisconsin got a 5, Nebraska got an 8, Michigan State got a 9, and Northwestern got a 9. Oregon, of the new teams, was the only one of the new teams from the Pac-12 that got an automatic bid, and they barely did so. They had to win the Pac-12 tournament, and they snuck in as an 11th seed. In terms of last year's awards, of course, Zach Edey won Player of the Year, and he won everybody's National Player of the Year. The Defensive Player of the Year was Ace Baldwin by the coaches poll, I believe, but also Boo Buie, of all people, of Northwestern, also was named by another organization, I noticed. In terms of Freshman of the Year, that was Benze Mabako of Indiana, a swing forward, and Owen Freeman, a center from Iowa. They split the award. So now I have listed, our esteemed panel here disagrees with me, I know, but I listed them in the order that I think these teams will finish. Of course, some of the decisions, were very difficult, including my champion. I don't think there is a clear-cut champion in the conference, but I picked Michigan State. I think you did too, Joey.
Yes.
Yeah,
I did. It's definitely a tough one this year.
Yeah, super tough. Extremely. But we'll go on. Michigan State loses 4 key pieces: Tyson Walker, Malik Hall, AJ Hoggard, and Maddie Sissoko. Sissoko's going to Cal, Hoggard's going to Vanderbilt, and the other 2 moved on to the pro ranks. Who's coming back? Jeremy Fears, the point guard, who was actually shot in his own home last year. He missed most of the season after a pretty nice start. Jaden Atkins, another nice guard, who's kind of been waiting for his time behind Hoggard and Walker, returns. Xavier Booker, one of the top recruits in college basketball last year, didn't get a ton of playing time, but increased as the season wore on. Cohen Carr, a great athlete. He comes back, a small forward. Also, they bring back Trey Holloman, point guard. Jackson Kohler, center. He was another high recruit, I think a top 60 guy. Carson Cooper, who actually, I believe, is also a sophomore, like Kohler, but he actually got more minutes last year than Kohler at center. Comes back. The main recruit from the portal was Frankie Fiddler, and Frankie was just a stat sheet stuffer at Omaha last year. Does that translate, from the Summit League to the Big Ten? We shall see, but he certainly was ultra efficient in many areas and productive in many areas. Michigan State brings in also 2 top 60 freshmen. One is Jace Richardson, combo guard at number 32, and Kerr Tang, or Tang. I don't know how I'm going to say Tang, but I'm not sure that it might be Tang.
I think it's Tang. Kerr Tang.
I think Tang.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm just going to keep on saying Tang for the rest of the show, and that's all we're going to do. So he's the shooting guard at number 53. So, gentlemen, I'll start with you, Josh. You don't have Michigan State at the top, so
yeah.
I guess I'll ask you is what don't you like about this team?
I think while yes, they're bringing a lot of their main guys back. I think Jeremy Fears, highly touted recruit last year. Obviously, it was. He got shot last year, but he got back to where he needed to be. Jaden Atkins, I'm pretty high on. I think he was a great shooter last year. Me personally, the reason why I don't have Michigan State up as the champs, I think losing Tyson Walker it's big for them. I think he was one of their main. He was their main guy. their go-to guy to get a bucket, and they kind of need to find a guy that can go and get that for them. Me personally, if I would find someone just like that, I think incoming freshman Jace Richardson, that dude, I was watching him. He played with the Boozer twins in high school.
Yeah.
And that dude is a 3-level scorer. Goes right to the rim. He's quick, and he can really get a good shot going. So I think if he's very involved in the offense, I think they can end up winning the conference for sure. But me personally, I got my Hoosiers winning it all. So
right. Joey, you were on the other side of the coin. You agree with me that you like Michigan State as the best team. So what do you like about this team?
Well, what I really like about Michigan State is although Walker and Hogard were definitely big losses at the guard position, I think Fears and Akins will be able to kind of fill in that role. Booker's look solid at the power forward position. They have a lot of front court depth. I didn't initially have them at first. I had them more second or third, but then I started watching a lot of Frankie Fiddler highlights, and I am really coming around on him. He has an incredibly smooth jump shot. I don't know if he is going to be averaging 20 a game for Michigan State like he did at Omaha. That feels like a stretch, but I think he's definitely going to give Michigan State the scoring boost to kind of propel them to that next level. And also, one thing I've learned from watching Michigan State all these years is you can never really bet against Tom Izzo. He's always successful.
His own march, man.
Yeah. Here's what I like about this team. First of all, just about everybody we're talking about is like a top 100 guy, except for Fiddler. So there's that. Now, does Izzo insist on playing a classic center? Again, that means either Kohler, again, like a top 60 guy, or Cooper, who did okay last year. If he insists on there always being a classic center in there, that might actually hurt this team, because I really think this team is best with 3 guards, or 2 guards and 2 wings, and Booker starting. Now, they might hurt a little bit on the rebounding side and, maybe on the interior defensive side. But if you're going up against a big team like Indiana, okay, so maybe you start your classic centers for that game. But I think ultimately he's got to make sure the right guys get the appropriate run on this team. And we shall see. I think that's modern basketball, and I think this team is built to go up and down. But the one thing that really concerns me is there's really not a lot of proven veterans. I mean, the most proven guy on this team is Fiddler, and hasn't done it at this level. So I'm picking Michigan State. I definitely think they're in the tournament. I'm picking them to win the conference, but I could go with, probably 3 or 4 other teams. All right, so we're going to move on to Josh's alma mater. Could it be your alma mater if you haven't graduated yet?
I don't know. Actually, I don't think so. I think you need to graduate for your alma mater.
It will soon
to be alma mater.
Right. So we'll talk about what they lost, and really, I think only one major piece, and that's Hillel Ware. Xavier Johnson. I mean, of course, the team really hurt when he wasn't out there. But, the last couple of years, we haven't seen a lot of them. So, and I think they've probably solved those point guard issues in terms of depth now. But we'll get into that. So a lot of guys returned that got a lot, big minutes last year. Malik Renault, power forward. The aforementioned Mackenzie
Mbako.
I'll get it yet. And Trey Galloway, who kind of converted to a point guard last year. Gabe Cups are among the guys coming back. Omar Ballo comes in from Arizona, huge man. Miles Rice, outstanding player who was the key to Washington State's turnaround last year, comes in at point guard. Kanan Carlisle. I love this kid. This kid has NBA written all over him. Now, he's got some maturing to do, and he might want to try passing the ball once in a while. But, yeah, I really love Kanan Carlisle, but I think he's probably going to need this year and another year before he thinks about the draft. Then we have Luke Goody, the sharpshooter from Illinois, coming over, and Langdon Hatton, a center from Bellarmine, Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Bellarmine. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've never seen him play, but he put up solid numbers there. They also bring in a 5-star in Bryce Tucker, small forward, number 21 composite ranking. So, lot to like about Indiana. I have them second. Josh, you have them first. So go for it. Tell us about your team.
All right. So, I mean, I think first off, they needed to address, the backcourt situation. I think going into the portal, bringing in a guy like Miles Rice, he was a phenomenal freshman for Washington State. He's really great, seeing the court. He's able to, nice little pull-up jumper. It'd be nice to, if he can gain a jumper in the three-pointer, it'd be awesome. I think Kanan Carlisle, like you said, this dude, he's a sharpshooter. I think he could be, first-round pick. I don't think this year. I think he needs some time to, learn the game, learn under Woody, and I think next year can really be his year. And then, like you said, Oumar Ballo. I walk past this dude from class every day, and this dude is ginormous, preseason All-American, I think he saw the recent success that Woody's had with the past centers with TJD, and now Khalil Ware is now in the NBA. I think he can really, upgrade his talent from then. And bringing in a guy like Bryson Tucker, I think, it's going to be a year if he's going to learn the game a little bit more on the bench, but I think he'll have flashes for sure. And Malik Renew, Mackenzie Mbako, Trey Galloway, those are that's your core right there. And Mbako's I think he's gonna have a great year, great shooter. He even gained 2 inches. I saw he was 6'7" last year. Now he's 6'9".
Are you
which is
kidding
huge?
Me? Wow.
Yeah, and I was watching that exhibition against Tennessee, and he looked amazing. Looked bigger, stronger. Renew slimmed down. I'm very excited for this team, honestly. I think they get the team right, meshed well together. It'd be big for the Hoosiers. So I'm excited.
2 guys that I think, were never really given enough credit. They were high, both in our top 100 on our draft board last year before we peeled off the guys who weren't going to be in the draft. So obviously, but when everybody was included, Mbako and Carlisle were both in our top 100. And I couldn't, people weren't as high on him as I was. So I'm glad to hear that. I don't know where people have them this year. I haven't dared to look at anybody else's draft board because I don't even have ours up yet. But yeah. So you have anything to add, Joey?
Yeah, I mean, I think y'all mostly covered it. What I will say is just Indiana's done a phenomenal job of just filling every position you could really need. I mean, you need a point guard, Miles Rice, great facilitator. You need shooters, Galloway, Carlisle, Goody. You're good there. You need some solid forwards, Renew and Mbako. It's about as good as it gets. Oh no, you lose Khalil Ware, star center. Well, let's get Oumar Ballo, one of the best centers in the nation. I mean, you really can't ask more from Indiana.
The only thing I'm wondering is about that huge front line. Renault, Ballo, and
the spacing maybe.
Huh? Yeah.
The spacing could be a problem.
Exactly. That's the one thing I worry about. And is that because Ballo, is going to take up all the paint.
Renault clog that paint.
And Renault loves to do his stuff down low. I don't know if you could play those two together.
I think it's definitely going to be. It's going to take some time for sure. I mean, I was watching that exhibition, and I saw a lot of Renew. He was out in the wing as well. It was like 4 out, and then you had Ballo down low. So, he's had strides of shooting the ball pretty well at times. If he can really develop a shot, that could be a huge boost for the Indiana offense. This team struggled last year with the shooting. The shooting was not great last year. No one, you couldn't really get, the only guy that was getting you real good buckets was Ware. And, hopefully, bring guys back like Gabe Cupps, who had a lot of minutes last year, was a true freshman. It's hard to be in a situation like that, being pushed right into the Wolves right away. So it was good. It was a good experience for him then. So maybe we'll see this year if he can kind of pull through and get some good minutes.
Right. All right. So I don't know how you guys feel about me, but I have Oregon third on this list. They lost, of course, N'Faly Dante, their big center, very similar in size-wise to Ballo, probably a little more athletic than Ballo. And Jermaine Cousinard, who was a really good all-around guard for them. They were the 2 big losses. But they do bring back they had 3 gems last year in the recruiting class, and that was Kwame Evans Jr., who played very solid last year. Jackson Shellstat, who was hurt at the beginning of the year, but when he came on, he played great. And then Mookie Cook, who barely played and got hurt, he is also back. So Evans is a forward, Shellstat is a point guard, and Cook is a wing, small forward. And they also bring back Nate Biddle, who's been outstanding at times when he's on the court. The problem is he's had trouble staying healthy, but he should be a great fill-in for Dante, assuming he can stay healthy. Keyshawn Bartholomew is a great guard to have coming off the bench, returns. And then in the portal, they bring in TJ Bamba from Villanova, Brandon Angel from forward from Stanford, who's another good all-around player. Supreme Cook from Georgetown, who I expect to probably play some at the 5 for this team. He's an excellent rebounder, big, strong guy. Raheem Moss, who was part of Toledo's impressive guard trio last year. All 3 went different places, transferred. And then they also bring in the top 50 guy at shooting guard, Jamari Phillips. So I kind of like this team in the sense that it has a little bit of everything. I think if the young guys can continue their development, Evans, Shasta, and Biddle can stay healthy, I think Bomba's a really good player. And the depth is a little suspect, but especially in terms of bigs, that's my main concern with this team. What do you think of Joey?
I think Oregon's good. I don't have them quite as high as you, Rich, but I definitely have them towards the top. I think if Shellstat is able to develop into one of the top guards in the Big Ten, which I think is very plausible, he's kind of able to fill that Kuznard role. That would definitely be huge. And I think Bamba and Angel are great wings to get. Bamba really impressed me in Villanova. Evans has been hyped a lot. I mean, this team definitely has a lot of potential.
Josh, got anything to add?
I will say Jackson Shellstat. I am very high on this guy. He's actually my projected player of the year for the Big Ten. I remember watching this guy in the tournament, and this dude he was scoring at will. Like, this dude can go get a bucket. Like, it looked just easy for him. And sophomore year, I think he'll have a great year. I'm very high also on Kwame Evans Jr. I see a lot of, honestly, Kalel Ware in him too. Ware didn't have a great freshman year, transferred at IU, and he had a great year. Evans, he had a solid freshman year, nothing too crazy, but I think he can make that leap and that jump and potentially be a first-round pick next year.
Yeah.
TJ Bamba.
Go ahead.
TJ Bamba, great pick, yeah, and great pickup for Oregon. I remember watching the Villanova games. I'm not the biggest fan of Kyle Neptune, but I think bringing him over from Washington State, he's kind of one of their guys there, and go get a bucket, good shooter. And even Jamari Phillips, I was watching, this top 50 freshman. This dude can shoot the ball from anywhere. This dude, he's got range from anywhere. He can go to the rim, contested shots. I'm pretty high in Oregon. I could potentially see them being the top 4 team in the Big Ten.
Right. I actually considered Kwame Evans potentially as defensive player of the year. And I have no argument with Shellstat as player of the year in the conference. Yeah, I can remember watching his first college game, and I was like, whoa. It's like you said, he's this fast. He gets to his spots. He's definitely much more of an offensive player than he is a defensive player. He's not very big for starters. Yeah. But yeah, and I haven't seen Mookie Cook play at the collegiate level yet, and he was rated up there right with those guys, those other 2 guys. So this team has a lot of upside. So now we talk UCLA. UCLA had an incredible freshman class last year, and we didn't really know what to do with them. Last year in our preseason predictions, We were very concerned about their experience, and those concerns proved out because this team was pretty not so good. I won't call them bad because they did improve as the season went on, but out of a lot of the guys that they had coming in freshman class were international players, and three of those high-ranked international players all took off on them, and that's including Bark Booktajel took off, Elaine, goodness gracious. I know he went on to the French league, but I can't pronounce his name. And we're going to leave it at that. He's in France now. And he was a small forward, and he probably did the best out of the international guys. But I mean, all these guys were very highly ranked. And Jan Vide went on to Loyola Marymount. The team also lost the Dembona to the NBA and Willie McClendon to San Jose State. They still bring back a ton of guys because, like I said, they were loaded with freshmen, including their best freshman of last year, Sebastian Mack, who I believe led the team in scoring. If not, he was close. Ade Mara, the aforementioned center, huge guy. He's like 7'4", Zach Edey size. Dylan Andrews, who had an off year, even for him, didn't make the progression we thought. Comes back. Lazar Stefanovic comes back. He was a steady presence for the team at the wing position. And they also bring back two forwards, Brandon Williams and Devin Williams, who also were freshmen last year, didn't hardly get any playing time at all. But where this team's strength really would seem to lie is in what they brought in from the portal. Kobe Johnson, who another player who had a horrible off year after looking like a first round prospect, kind of fell off draft boards with a poor season at USC. Eric Daly is another sophomore coming in, another top 100 guy, 4-star guy, comes in from Oklahoma State. He's a forward. Sky Clark returns to the Big Ten after having stop at Georgetown. He's back in the conference. Tyler Bilodeau, a forward for Oregon State, an all-around guy, joins the team. William Kyle, a center from South Dakota State. He was, if not the leading dunker in the country last year, he was darn close. This guy's a dunking machine, highly efficient around the basket, also a great shot blocker. Be interesting to see how he moves from, the big, is that the Big Sky, I believe, South Dakota State? I think it's Big Sky.
I think it's Big Sky, yeah.
Yeah. And also Dominic Harris returns to the conference. He was at Loyola Marymount, and he comes, forget where he started, but he's now with UCLA. Yeah. And so the other, they also have a significant freshman in Trent Perry, a point guard who was a high 4-star. He joins this huge mix of players. So when you look at, they got like 6 returners with potential. They have 6 proven players in the portal. Well, I don't know if Eric Daly only has 1 year under his belt, so I don't know if he probably falls more in the latter category of upside. So, but then you got 5 proven guys coming in from the portal, and then you have a high 4-star freshman. That's a lot of talent on one team. So what do you think of Josh?
I have them as a tournament team, UCLA. It was an off year last year, and the last year for them in the Pac-12. There's going to be a lot of questions for this team for sure. It's great that they bring back most of their freshmen. I think Sebastian Mack, I thought he was, a great player for them to have last year, a good freshman, leading the team in scoring. But like you said, the main thing for UCLA is they're working the transfer portal. I think bringing a guy like Kobe Johnson, a glue guy like him, that's big for UCLA, kind of dog mentality. A guy like Sky Clark, who I'm very high on. I thought, Louisville obviously had their past fumbles in the past couple of years.
Oh, right.
Kenny
I
Payne.
had him confused with Epps.
Oh,
Epps.
Jaden Epps.
Yeah, I had it.
I think he went
Yeah,
to Georgetown. Yeah.
right. I said Sky Clark was coming from Georgetown. It's coming from Louisville. Right. Thank you.
And so I think Sky Clark has the potential to be, a great player for UCLA. And, a bunch of these transfers coming in, they've all proven guys, like you said, they can really bring in a good amount of talent. And a guy like Trent Perry is a burger boy, McDonald's All-American. He's coming from the Cali area. He knows, how to play Cali ball. I think he can be a real contributive factor for UCLA.
Yeah. I mean, we know Kobe Johnson could play at a high level in this conference. We know Tyler Bilodeau could play at a high level in this conference. We've seen Dylan Andrews have really good games. Stefanovic, the same. So you have all this core that that can play. Sky Clark has proven it too at a high level, not necessarily in this conference, but so, and then the question is, I mean, if you think about it, if some of the younger kids that were really high recruits, like the Williams guys and Mac and Mara, and Mac has already kind of proved that he can do it, and Daly too, to some degree at Oklahoma State. But I mean, if these guys start living up to the potential with all these other players that we know that are at least going to be solid,
there's a lot of upside.
Yeah, it could be I mean, if Mara plays like we think he can, I mean, this team could actually win the conference.
I agree. I'm pretty high on this team. I think this team can do a lot of damage if it all works well together. It's just you got to mesh well, and I think they will. Honestly, it's going to take some time. Bring all these new guys in. Freshmen. Going to be sophomores now, so it's like still got to learn. The offense and working into the Big Ten as well. I think there's definitely a gap between Pac-12 basketball and the Big Ten. I agree, and it's a lot of bully ball as well. So it's going to be a learning process for this team, but I think there's going to be a lot of good upside to it for sure.
Yep. All right, so we'll move on to Joey's school, and that is Ohio State. And Ohio State has done a lot of nice things, though maybe doesn't have the depth that some of the teams that we previously talked about. But they lose Jamison Battle, who was a bucket, friend of the show. They lose Roddy Gale, another friend of the show. He goes to Michigan. And you know what surprises me is he told me he loved Coach Diebler. And nobody was shocked more than me when Roddy Gale transferred, because he really seemed to be all in love with Coach Diebler. But, maybe money, I guess, factors into this too nowadays. Felix Akpara also leaves. Had trouble always staying on the court because of foul trouble, but was a great shot blocker when he was on the court. He was a late transfer. He was really late in the game, and he decided to leave Ohio State. They weren't too happy with him. I know that for a fact. Dale Bonner, Zed Key, and Scotty Middleton all took off as well. So not many returners, but some good ones. Bruce Thornton comes back at point guard. There may not be a better point guard in this conference. Devin Royal, and I'll tell you, I'm really in tune with the Ohio State program. And anybody I talked to at Ohio State would always, when I was like, what do you think about the younger guys? Devin Royal will be the first word out of their mouth. So watch out for Devin Royal this year. Then you have Evan Mahaffey, kind of more of a defensive ace on this team. And then unfortunately, Tyson Chapman, who did Tyson get to play last year, Joey?
I think he played a little bit last year.
Well, yeah, I thought he missed most of it with injury, if not all, and he's going to miss this season as well. And that's a crusher. So it would have been nice. He was a very high 4-star recruit. All right, but they bring in some real studs from other schools who didn't get a ton of playing time. Aaron Bradshaw was a top 10 5-star, comes in from Kentucky, center. Sean Stewart, another, I believe he was top 10 5-star, comes in from Duke, another guy I did hardly played. Stewart has the athleticism. He just oozes athleticism. And Bradshaw actually has the modern center game with a pretty nice shot to go along with some good shot blocking. Then we have Michi Johnson. Michi has been arrested several times for taking shots outside of the arena. I joke. This man has no conscience. He will shoot from anywhere. But he's coming off a great year at South Carolina in terms of scoring, but he still wasn't ultra efficient. Then we have 3-and-D guy Micah Parrish coming in from San Diego State. And Quez Glover coming in. He was supposed to go to BYU, never hooked up. Then I think he missed all of last year with injury. So he actually was a star at a mid-major level and now is finally going to get his chance to prove it at a higher level. And then recruiting-wise, the big freshman coming out is John Mobley, a point guard at number 49. And given that this team isn't oozing with depth, I would suspect that Mobley's going to get some playing time right out of the gate. So, Joey, what do you make of your team? There's a lot. It's their starting five looks really, really strong, but then there's a drop off, don't you think?
A little bit, but I think it's something that we can counterattack. Obviously, great starting five, Bruce Thornton and Michi Johnson, I think are just going to be absolutely exciting in the backcourt. You said Michi isn't always that efficient, and you're not wrong, but between the two of them, they're such great scorers that one of them is almost always going to have it going on. Sean Stewart and Aaron Bradshaw, so much potential, so much athleticism. As for the bench, you said Devin Royal, coming into his sophomore year, he's shown a lot of potential to be a really solid wing. Quez Glover is a combo guard I'm really excited about, was averaging 19 at Samford just a few years ago. When he's healthy, he can really score off the bench, which is going to be huge. And John Mobley, a true freshman, so it's going to be a bit of a test for him. But I've been watching a lot of his film, and I think he really has the talent to provide off the bench.
Right. I think what's going to happen in terms of rotation-wise, I think Bradshaw and Stewart will start together. But then I think one thing where I worry about is the front court, because really Royal is more of kind of a combo forward. But so I think what's going to happen is it's going to kind of be a constant 3-man rotation there, where always Bradshaw or Stewart will always be on the floor, unless there's some big guy out there that I'm not aware of. I mean, I'm sure we're only looking at, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're only looking at 10 guys. So they have a few more guys on the roster. But I would feel a lot more comfortable about this team if I knew there was a 6'10" guy or a 7-footer out there that could block some shots and grab some rebounds. That's what Akpara was supposed to be doing, and that's why they were so upset that he transferred late, because it left him very little options. But yeah, if they had a guy like Akpara, this team might be my pick for winning the conference. But right now they're really kind of thin with big bodies. All right, so we'll move on down to Illinois. And boy, I don't know where you guys had these. I didn't look at all your picks. This is like UCLA all over again. So much potential, but can they put it together? But listen to the names they lost. Terrence Shannon Jr., an All-American. Coleman Hawkins, Mr. Do Everything for this team, goes on to Kansas State. Marcus Domask, who filled in, we talked to Coleman Hawkins last preseason, and we're like, who's going to be playing point guard for you? And he's just like, nobody. No, nobody. We're all going to handle the ball. Well, turned out to be Marcus Domask, and boy, he did a great job going from kind of a wing shooting guard to converting to a point guard, and he did a great job. Dane Danger, who was this like instant offense for this team at center, moves on to Memphis. Quincy Guerrier goes on to the pros. Luke Goody goes to Indiana. Justin Harmon, who could be a bucket off the bench, graduated. So it doesn't leave much on this team. But Ty Rodgers is the one guy who got significant minutes on this team last year, and he's kind of like a Swiss Army knife at forward, could even play, guard for you. And they also have Draven Gibbs Lawhorn, who was a point guard, didn't get a ton of time last year, figures to get more playing time this year. Pretty high recruit. Then who comes over in the portal? You have Keelan Boswell. One of my another pro prospect I think is underrated. This kid is a junior and he's still 19. I'm going to repeat
he
that.
reclassified. Yeah,
he's a junior and he's still 19. He's got 2 years under his belt. His freshman year, he was outstanding. Last year, he kind of lost his way. I'm hoping that a new environment, maybe a new system, a new coach can get him back in line. His strengths are, on the ball defense, passing, and he just in attacking the basket. He's got a beautiful, strong body to attack the basket. He took way too many jump shots last year. He's got to rein that in and become more of a point guard. Ben Humericius, who was a kind of a stat stuffing forward at Evansville, comes over. He could play the small forward, power forward for you. Trey White, a former top 50 recruit, small forward wing, comes over from Louisville's, never quite lived up to his potential. Carey Booth, power forward, comes over from Notre Dame. He was a freshman last year, a top 60 guy, didn't get a lot of playing time, even though he was by far Notre Dame's highest recruit. And I guess he decided to book, much to Notre Dame's chagrin. This guy is highly touted guy who your modern day power forward, can stretch the floor a little bit, rebound, block shots, blah, blah, blah. Then comes the freshman class, and by far, I think the best freshman class in the conference, and that's why we have a tough time, at least I do, have a tough time pegging where this team's going to go. First, we start off with Kasparis Jackasonis. I think you are correct. This guy is a 5-star coming over.
Stud.
Coming over from Barca. A lot of people already consider him a first-round pick. I'll give you a little preview of our draft board. Right now, we have him at number 30 on our draft board. So this guy is a big point guard. Could improve as a shooter, but he can pass. And he can do other things because he's 6'6". And if you can get a point guard who can dish out like 6 assists a game like he did last year, in the professional ranks or in the under 18 ranks, you got something going on here. Then they have a top 20 5-star Willie Riley at small forward. Then they have Tomislav Ivicic, who's coming. He is the twin of Big Z. I forget Big Z. We always call him Big Z, but the other Ivicic twin, who played for Kentucky last year and is now at Arkansas. This is his twin brother. They do a lot of the same things. Now, I will say Tomislav has always kind of been lagged a little bit behind his brother. So he's probably the less talented, but nonetheless, still a talented guy who has a lot of experience in playing at the pro level in the Adriatic League. The talent doesn't end there, though. They also have a top 30 guy, a high 4-star, and Morez Johnson coming in as a freshman center. So as you can see, this team is mostly young. They're, very young, but man, oh man, just another team, just like UCLA, that the potential is here is out off the charts. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, for me, it's a tournament team. Bringing back, obviously you lose a lot. Tishan, went to the pros, Coleman Hawkins to K-State, Damask, Dane Danger. But he went out into the portal, and he got his guys. I think bringing back Ty Rodgers is huge. I think he had a pretty decent sophomore season. He's a glue guy. Reminds me a lot of Josh Hart, honestly, rebounding guard and doing all that. Kylan Boswell, I think, like you said, great player. I think he has a chance to be also like a first-round pick if he really shows out for Illinois. A lot of great, transfers coming in. I'm really big on Kasparis Jackasonis. I think this dude can really bring out a lot for Illinois. He scores at his own pace. He scores at will. He's his great court vision. I think he's gonna be a great guard for Illinois. Will Riley, he's a huge individual. He's able to shoot the ball. He's like a freakish athlete. He can really put the ball in the basket for sure. And you're Big Z, now it's Big T. The other center. So they got a lot of good pieces. I think Morris Johnson has a chance of being the next Dane Danger for Illinois. He's a big guy, getting to the post, score at ease. There's a lot of good pieces for Illinois. I think it's going to, like UCLA, it's going to take some time, a lot to work in a mesh, a lot of new guys, but they'll get there. And this is definitely a tournament team for sure.
Right. Anything to add, Joey?
I think you guys pretty much covered it. I think what I will add, though, is I'm a little bit lower on this team. I do have them making the tournament, but a little bit lower down. I just think that 3 freshman starters definitely feels a little risky. I totally am buying into the hype, though, of Josh Tischler. I think he could be a phenomenal scorer for the Fighting Illini, but I'm a little put off by the 3 freshman starters.
Yeah, and that might, Humoricious might start instead of Riley or who knows. I think Rogers and Boswell are the only 2 guys, and probably
Jakisonis, maybe.
Yeah, Jakisonis is should be penciled in there. Unlike UCLA, there is the transfers, though they are on the younger side, they still collectively have a fair amount of playing experience. So, and at a high, at a proven, well, I can't say that about Carrie Booth, but the rest of them have pretty much proven themselves. All right, so we'll move on, and this is where I think this is the bubble region of the conference. I think everybody we talked about before here, is in, and here these are the bubble teams. So next up then is Iowa. Iowa lost some good players, but I don't think anybody that's going to kill them other than maybe point guard Tony Perkins. He had a really nice year for them. Ben Creaky was a good player for them, but I don't think irreplaceable. Patrick McCaffrey had an off year. And DeSante Bowen, again, nice backup point guard, but he moves on to St. Bonaventure, by the way. McCaffrey went to Butler. Perkins went to Missouri. Krinky went to the pros. All right, so all those guys are gone. Who do they come back? Payton Sandfort, I've got to be one of the leading player of the year candidates in this conference. Owen Freeman had an outstanding freshman year. Can he do it with bigger minutes? We shall see. Josh Dix also had an outstanding freshman year. He was highly efficient. Can he do it with bigger minutes? Brock Harding, point guard, had a really nice year in terms of passing and outside shooting, struggled with overall field goal percentage. He's a little guy, and he's going to have a lot more minutes this year. So also Payton Sandfort, Peyton's brother, is back, and Dembele. How do you say Dembele's first name?
Lodgy? I think it's Lodgy.
Yeah, Lodgy. Dembele, a forward, is also back. They didn't really strike gold in the transfer portal. They bring in Seydou Traoré, who, spoiler alert, Payton Sandfort is our guest today, and he told me in that interview that he might be one of the best athletes on the team. He certainly does very well in where you would expect a long athletic guy to perform, block shots, steals, rebounds. And they're going to need it because this team otherwise doesn't have a lot of size. Drew Thelwell comes in from Morehead State. He's probably going to be this team's starting or backup point guard, along with Brock Harding. And then their top recruit, who Payton also went out of his way to mention, is Cooper Koch. He was number 86 in the power rankings. He's a power forward. So, Joey, I know you were a pretty big Payton Sandfort fan. So what do you make of this team?
I actually really like this team. I think I have them top 5, which I know is probably above average. But Payton Sandfort, when I watch his highlights, he's a phenomenal scorer, 3-level scorer, has a great 3-point shot, solid shot off the dribble, really good at getting to the basket, really anything you would want from your number 1 forward. Owen Freeman also had a phenomenal freshman year. Is just an absolute monster, defensively, rebounding, posting up in the paint. Josh Dix, fantastic shooter. Not sure if the starting point guard will be Harding or Thelwell, but between the two of them, you can rely on consistent point guard play. In Traore, fantastic hustle guy. I mean, this starting lineup really is anything you could ask for. Sandfort, we'll talk about in a little bit, is my pick for player of the year. Freeman being my pick for defensive player of the year. I'm just really excited about this team.
I like both of those picks. One thing I'm worried about is size on this team. I mean, I think Cooper Koch is going to have to contribute right away for this team to compete for one of the top spots, to be in the top 5 or so of this conference. If he comes through, this team could be a top 5 team in the conference. If not, I don't know. Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I will say I'm not very high on Iowa. I do think Payton Sandfort's a phenomenal player, great shooter. He will be in the NBA next year. Owen Freeman, defensive menace. To be honest, it's a Fran McCaffrey mold for sure. It's a system that has been working for him. The team's always competitive, but it seems like these past couple of years it hasn't really been over the top. I'd say, so losing Garza, the Murray twins, it's kind of been hard for Fran to work out with the system, and I just don't really see this team going over the edge and kind of just staying as in the middle of the pack, really.
Right. No, I hear that. This team usually struggles on the defensive end under him, but is really good on the offensive end, and I would expect that to be the case again for the most part. And they've had more talent and gone, still haven't really gone. I don't even know if they've made the Sweet 16 with any of the Murrays. So yeah, they've had more talent and haven't gone. Yeah. I mean, you think about they had the Murrays and Garza all at the same time.
Yeah.
Plus they had
each year, yeah.
And Wieskamp. They had Wieskamp and the little guard who's like their all-time leading scorer.
Bohannon? Is that Jordan Bohannon?
Yeah, Jordan. All those guys were on the same team.
I remember my freshman year, IU was it was the Big Ten tournament, and it was the semifinals or the finals, and it was Iowa and Indiana, and I remember it was a close game, tie game, and 2 seconds left, Jordan Bohannon from half court heaves it over, and it was pure just like sadness for like a good week just because of that. But I mean, it was rough. But so I've got a little soft spot, a little hard spot for Jordan Bohannon. So
I actually think McCaffrey might be on the hot seat.
I don't think it's like it's very like each year it's kind of just been like middle of the pack. They're not doing anything crazy. Like defensively, they're never great. Offense, they're shooting the lights out. That's their team, and like I don't see it changing.
Well, that's a good formula to get you so far. But what I think this team could use a few more defensive stoppers and a little more size. And what they came through with in the portal just doesn't get anybody overly excited. Speaking of not getting excited about the portal, we're going to move on to the Purdue Boilermakers, who, spoiler alert, brought in no one from the portal. And of course, they lose Zach Edey. They lose Lance Jones. Both went on to the pros. Mason Gillis, the 6th man of the year in the conference, moves on to Duke. And Ethan Morton, their defensive stopper, moves on to Colorado State. So who do they have left? Well, they still have 6 guys who contributed majorly, including their backcourt of Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer. Trey Kaufman-Wren, who figures to take over as the post-up scoring machine in the paint. Cam Heide might be one of the best kept secrets. I really like this guy. I expect him to have a big breakout year for Purdue. He's an athletic, big wing, small forward. Miles Colvin was a pretty high recruit and known for his shooting. He's still there. And Caleb First, who's been backing up Edey forever, gets a chance to see his minutes get expanded this year. And he too was a former high recruit. As I said, no one from the portal. They bring in 3 top 150 guys from in terms of freshmen. And with the top one being Jakari Harris, a combo guard, number 69 in the combo rankings. They also have 2 centers that are in between 130 and 150 coming in. I'm sure those guys, they're hoping is the next Zach Edey or something along those lines. Purdue is known for always having their huge 7-footers. So we shall see if either of those guys get any significant playing time. But really, what's there to talk about here is the 6 returners without Zach Edey. So what do you think of Joey?
So what I'm thinking is Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer is still a great backcourt.
Yep.
But I think they're going to lack a lot of scoring though, because Edey did so much for that team. I think they're going to need. I think the big question mark with this team is Kaufman-Renn. If Kaufman-Renn can develop into a solid back of the basket scorer, obviously he's not going to be doing what Edey did. But if he can be consistent and get them a good amount of points, then maybe Smith and Lawyer can improve their game just enough to counteract that. Regardless, I think Purdue's they're still gonna do well in the Big Ten. Painter's a great coach. It's a good defensive team, but once it comes to the tournament, I really don't see that much from them.
Yeah, I don't even know if they get there, to be honest. What do you think of Josh?
I'm not high on them at all. I mean, I see, the preseason poll came out. They're a top 15 team in the country. I really just don't see it.
I don't see that at all.
I don't. And they played through Edey for the past 4 years, and that was basically they ran through them and everything, and you're losing that, and you're not going to have that type of offense anymore. You're gonna have to, like you said, Braden Smith's gonna have to step up. Trey Kaufman-Renn, Fletcher Lawyer, those guys, and I can't really see, any of those guys. I can't really say, oh, I'm going to go to this guy to go get myself a bucket. I can't see, I'm not huge on Braden Smith to say, oh, this dude can go and get a bucket for me, right away. I think this team, I do think, Matt Painter's a phenomenal coach. I think he's done really well with Purdue. They're going to be great defensively. I still think they'll be, very competitive in the Big Ten. But as Joey said, I don't see them doing much in the tournament or even making the tournament at all. They're bringing a guy like Jakari Harris. Reminds me a lot of, Lance Jones, good shooter. He's able to go to the basket. That's big for Purdue. Don't really have someone like a good shooter like that anymore. Fletcher Lawyer, I'm not big on either. And I just don't see a big year from Purdue. I think it's a regression year for sure.
Yeah, I think it's very, very likely that this team struggles to separate from the middle of the pack. And I'll tell you why, because as much as Purdue has a reputation for being a great defensive team, let's look at the guys on the left of this chart. Their 4 best defenders from last year are gone. First is not a shot blocker. Trey Kaufman-Renn is not a shot blocker. Trey Kaufman-Renn will probably have no problem getting 12 to 15 points a night in the paint, and probably can even shoot the ball. He will shoot the ball better than Edey from the perimeter. But who's going to play defense on this team? Joey, you had a follow up.
Yeah, this is definitely they're going to struggle more. But what I wanted to add though is they got Daniel Jacobson, the recruit, number 147, the center.
Right.
Another 7'3" guy. I don't know if it'll be this year. Don't know if it'll be next year, but they might have another Edey, which I just kind of thought was interesting. Wanted to throw that in there.
Do you know how big Burgess is, the other center?
I'm not sure.
I'll look. He's 6'10". Yeah, he's a midget. He's 6'10".
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And you know what? Jacobson may have to, one of those big guys may have to play right away, even though it wouldn't be the ideal lineup because, Lance Jones and Ethan Morton were their 2 best perimeter defenders. Zach Edey, of course, protected the rim. And then Mason Gillis could basically guard just about anybody. So where do you go from losing those 4 guys? Yeah, That's where I'm worried about this team, and depth. I mean, beside the six main returners, then the only other options are freshmen. So, all right, we'll move on to the Michigan Wolverines and their new coach, Dusty May. This team lost point guard Doug McDaniel to Kansas State. Olivia Kamwa moves on to the pros. Terrence Williams moves on to USC. Terrace Reed Center moves on to UConn. They were the main losses. The main returners are Namari Burnett, shooting guard, Will Tischler. Am I saying that right?
I think it's Will Cheddar.
I think Cheddar.
Cheddar. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Who played got some good minutes last year, wasn't a starter. But most of the strength on this team is coming in from the portal, and they made a really odd decision, at least in my estimation. First of all, they bring in Roddy Gale from Ohio State. This guy can guard your team's opposing best player. Needs to develop more offense, but he's got the defensive side down. Really good all-around player, but definitely stronger on the defensive side. They bring in Vlad Golden. Dusty May brings him along from FAU, the big, strong Russian center. They also bring in Danny Wolf, who was in the running for Player of the Year in the Ivy League last year. This is another big guy. He's not quite 7 feet, but and definitely has much more touch from the outside than Golden. And that's where I kind of get a little confused about this team, because apparently Wolf and Golden are going to be starting. I verified this last night, by the way. Golden and Wolf will be starting together, and to me, that's one too many slow guys out there at the same time. So they also bring in Trey Donaldson from Auburn, a point guard, high energy point guard, needs to improve his shot. Sam Walters, a 6'10" sharpshooter, who if you watched Alabama last year, Sam basically camped in the corners and knocked down timely threes. I suspect that the Golden Wolf experiment is probably going to end at some point, and Walters will be the guy who benefits. He can shoot better than Wolf, and he certainly can shoot better than Golden. Reuben Jones is actually slated to start ahead of Burnett right now. I don't know how long that's going to last. Reuben wasn't too good in Michigan's last scrimmage. But they don't bring in any top 100 guys. The most touted is Justin Pippen, a combo guard at number 106 in the composite rankings. But the guy who stood out in the recent scrimmage is a unranked 3-star, and that's LJ Kaysen, who I think put up close to 20 points in like 19 minutes or something like that. So who knows? He's not even a top 300 guy, but he's the freshman that stood out the most in a recent scrimmage. So what do you think of this team, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of questions for sure. I personally have them as a tournament team. I think what Dusty May did at FAU is just phenomenal. Bringing him to the Final Four. And he was due. Go to a Big Ten school, big school anywhere, and bringing in a guy like Vlad. Vlad's a tremendous player. He was great at FAU. Danny Wolf, like you said, almost was in the running for Player of the Year in the Ivy League. Roddy Gale can defend any player whatsoever. And even bringing back a guy like Namani Burnett. I'm not huge on Namari Burnett, but he's had strides, shooting the ball pretty well. Will Cheddar, has strides of shooting the ball pretty decently. Sam Walters, I think, can make that big jump for sure, shooting the ball tremendously. And like you said, even bringing these guys, LJ Kaysen, I've never heard of this man. He wasn't even top 300, and putting up 20 points in a scrimmage is awesome. The son of Scottie Pippen, Justin Pippen, was great in high school. Played at Sierra Canyon. He has a chance to really do something for Michigan. A lot of questions for Dusty May's team, but once things get rolling, Big Ten conference play gets going, this team I think can be very competitive.
I think Pippen's actually going to be needed to contribute right away.
I agree.
Because you really don't have a natural backup for Trey Donaldson. I figure. I mean, they have. I mean, they do have Kaysen, but he's a guard, and they do have Fat Brooks, who's also a guard. But Pippen is the one who's comes in with the pedigree and the
high profile,
rankings. Higher profile.
And I think he will play like a decent amount of minutes. I think as the season goes on, he'll be in a team practicing. I think getting any experience with Dusty May's offense will definitely benefit Justin Pippen and the team as well, for sure.
Right. And what's interesting about Golden and Wolf is why they chose to go to this. I mean, I know why Golden's there. Why Wolf chose to go to Michigan?
I don't know why Wolf.
I don't know what he was thinking, because I've seen Danny Wolf in person up close, and he just, to me, doesn't have the foot speed to do anything, do a lot outside the paint. And so, I think both of them have, all conference type of ability, but one of them is probably going to cancel out the other, and it's Wolf is probably going to end up with the short end of the stick, because Golden, we know he can get your post points. We know he can protect the rim, where Wolf is more of an offensive guy, and you can get the same thing from Sam Walters, who's more athletic, and you could play Sam at the 4. So True. I don't know, Danny Wolf. I really, really curious why he chose to go to Michigan, because the fit's just not there.
It is also, the Big Ten. You never can have enough bigs as well. So
right, but if you're Danny Wolf and you want to prove that you can play at a higher level, you want to prove that where you don't have
the guy. Yeah, I guess
you don't have to. You don't want to have to fight 2 other guys for minutes.
For sure. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they'll be fighting so much. I do think they'll probably end up having to running a little 4-5 action, but it is going to slow. It's going to be 2 slow guys going at it, and it's like, I don't know, that's going to be great defensively in transition.
Yeah, I was going to agree with that. I think that they're it seems like Dusty May is kind of going for like a Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert kind of situation. Yeah. With the big back to basket center down low in the stretch 4, but definitely that foot speed on defense is going to be brutal.
Right. All right, so we'll move on to Maryland. Maryland loses Jameer Young, who's a fantastic player for them last year. The little guy moves on to the pros. That was their main loss. They bring back Julian Reese, who's been a real steady force for them. He's really good rebounder, shot blocker, but the rest of his offense still lagging behind. Deshaun Harris-Smith was a wing last year, highly regarded, top 50 guy. Didn't really play up to expectations, but he returns. Jordan Geronimo, former Indiana guy, athletic, good defender. He comes back. And Jahari Long, good shooter, also returns. In the portal, they bring in Jacoby Gillespie from Belmont. And, Belmont had a trio of players that were outstanding last year, and they could have all run it back. They're all sophomores, but they didn't, and Gillespie was one of them, and they all went their separate ways too. But Gillespie had a fantastic year. Don't remember. I know he put up a lot of points, had a good number of assists. Let's see. Fantastic shooting splits too. So he had 4.1 assists per game, 16.5 points per game, and listen to these shooting splits. Now, of course, this is in the Missouri Valley, but 56 from the floor, 39 from deep, 83 from the free throw line. And he produced all those other numbers. 2.1 steals per game, too. Stat sheet stuffer. Gotta love it. Also, they bring in Shelton Miguel from South Florida, who was the 6th man of the year in the American Conference. Rodney Rice comes over from Virginia Tech, former high recruit that didn't get a ton of playing time, is another guy coming in from the portal. Their prize freshman is Derek Queen, a center, and one has to wonder, can he and Julian Reese, coexist? Because that would be a shame, because Reese is probably Maryland's best player. Queen is number 12, the 12th ranked recruit in the country. But they might both play the same position. So, Joey, what are you thinking about Maryland?
Well, right now I'm just having almost PTSD flashbacks to last year, watching Jameer Young carry the team, putting up 20 a game, while Dante Scott was playing inefficiently. He had wings that couldn't hit threes, and Julian Reese was doing his best, down low, getting rebounds and putting shots back up. But he's not much of a go-to scorer.
Right.
Now that Jameer Young is gone, my initial reaction was that, okay, how are we going to be good? How is Maryland going to be good without Jameer Young? But they brought in Gillespie, who I think has a lot of potential at that guard position. Selton Miguel looked like a really, really good shooter at South Florida. So if Gillespie can kind of fill that Jameer Young role a little bit, Miguel can knock down some threes in the backcourt, then maybe there's some hope. But I think the big concern is Julian Reese cannot spread the floor at all. So him and Derek Queen is going to be really questionable if they're going to be on the floor at the same time. I think that's going to be a big problem for Maryland. Also, Deshaun Harris-Smith, he did not have the best season last year with Maryland shooting the ball, shot 20%, not ideal. So definitely some question marks for Maryland. But if, things click and Gillespie and Miguel have a really good year, I think there is some potential.
Yeah, certainly a nice veteran backcourt there. Josh?
Yeah, I think it's the shooting needs to be better for Maryland. It was, outside of Jameer Young, who was basically the whole offense, you bring in a top 50 guy like Deshaun Harris-Smith, and the shooting was abysmal. I get, freshman, it's in his first year, but if this team wants to be good and, compete and be a top 6-8 team in the league, the shooting needs to be better. I think bringing in a guy like Jacoby Gillespie, that's huge. Like from what I just heard, when I've seen looking through his stats, this dude is shooting almost 40% from three, and he's a stat stuffer. It's amazing, and I'm also a huge fan of Derek Queen. Remember last year watching him at Mount Vernon Academy with all the big guys, Cooper Flagg, Liam McNeely, and I would see as Derek Queen was the number one guy. They'd feed that man in the post, and he's scoring at ease, scoring at will, and I don't see a way of Reese and Queen really playing together. I mean, Queen has the potential of getting to that perimeter and shooting good shots, but the only way is, Julian Reese, I think he's a great player, but it's the one thing with Reese is his foul trouble. So, I remember watching a bunch of Maryland games, and this dude, 4 or 5 fouls, every 3 games. And the foul trouble that needs to, be worked on, and the shooting definitely needs to be worked on if Maryland wants to get to where they want to be.
I think Reese is, because he's not really a true center, at least in terms of size. He's like 6'8", 6'9". I actually think he's athletic enough to defensively be fine at the 4. But it's like Joey said, though, what do you do with him on the offense? Queen probably has more shooting potential than Reese. Would you say?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Julian Reese is not known. He's known for being a post guy, getting down low, and he didn't really attempt any threes whatsoever last year, in last two seasons, and Derek Queen has the potential of being. I think he's the potential of being, if he gets the minutes, plays well, he could be, freshman of the year for the Big Ten. I think he's that well versed in his offensive abilities.
Right.
If Queen is able to stretch the floor, that would be absolutely huge for Maryland. Yeah. I didn't see too much of it up to this point, but maybe that's something he can add on. I think back to the 2020 Maryland team when we were at our peak with Anthony Cowan and Jalen Smith having that guard and big duo. And I think with Gillespie, and whether it's with Reese or Queen, I think we do have that. But also that Maryland team, you had phenomenal 3D wings with Ayala and Hakeem Hart and Daryl Morcell. So I think the real question mark for Maryland is, can some of these 3D wings like Harris Smith, Miguel, Rodney Rice, can they step up?
Right. Yeah, we don't know much about Rice. I mean, I think he was definitely a top 100 guy at one point, but he's hardly played. So we shall see. All right, so we'll move on to Nebraska. Nebraska had a blow, toward the, or actually before the summer, I believe, even began, when they lost one of their best players from last year, Rank Mast, who played center for them. Not really his natural position, I don't think. At least defensively, he's not an ideal center. He's also undersized, but he reminds me a little bit of Riley Minix, the guy who played at Morehead State. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he's on San Antonio's G League team now, I believe. May even have a 2-way contract. Anyway, I digress. They basically, in my opinion, last year, Nebraska had like 4 really good players, and they've lost 2 of them. Mast due to injury, and Kasai Taminaga, their little shooting guard, well, actually probably combo guard, who has moved on to the pros. They do bring back 2 of the 4 of their big 4, and that's Bryce Williams, a wing, small forward, good shooter, just good solid round player. And the same could be same of Juwan Gary, though he's more defensive oriented, more athletic. He's going to, get you the dunks and the rebounds and some block shots, but he's not quite the scorer that Bryce Williams is. Those are their 2 big returners. Now, they do bring in Burke Bukajel, or if I
Bukajel.
And I think it's actually pronounced Gel. I think I got this one right because we had to learn how to say it last year. So, and the reason is because we were super high on this guy from the way he played in Europe coming in. And we thought he was just going to take college basketball by storm, and he did anything but. And so now, thinking a year under his belt, maybe a new system that allows a little more offensive freedom, more of a pro system from Hoiberg, that he could potentially break out and be the all-conference player that we expected as freshman. But this guy is a guy who can do a little bit of everything, has great size. When he's on, he can be a very good shooter, good shot creator. We shall see. He was on our draft board top 100 to start last season, but didn't stay there very long, just because he just wasn't playing well. But all right, they also bring in Rolly Worcester, a nice point guard from Utah, Braxton Mia, shot blocking center from Washington, Connor Asijan, who kind of fell out of favor in Wisconsin, but he is now a junior. But so last year had a poor season. His freshman season, he was outstanding. So
Phenomenal.
I don't know what happened with the season, but he gets a fresh start with Nebraska. They also have Gavin Griffiths, who was a 4-star with Rutgers. Definitely was a kid I saw play in person multiple times last year. Definitely, you could see the big wing potential there, but he couldn't quite put it together. One of the problems he had is he was very much underweight. I mean, this kid's a string bean. So hopefully he's put on some muscle, and yeah.
Wow.
But pretty nice portal class coming in to hook up with two good players. What are you thinking here, Joey?
I think that they did get a decent portal class, but I still think this is going to be one of the worst teams in the nation.
Whoa!
Just because I think so. I think that they have a lot of
Cornhusker fans, send your email to joey.bardack@hoopsprospects.com.
I think they have a lot of very solid role players, but I don't think they have enough scoring. I think Bryce Williams is a solid scorer. Gary, not much of a scorer. Worcester, not much of a scorer. Mia, Asijan, not many guys that you can give them the ball and say, go get me a bucket. Bjornstensson has shown a lot of potential, but he only averaged 4 points last game. So I'm gonna wait a little. Yeah, last year. So I'm gonna wait a little bit before I put all my eggs in that basket. I think they have some solid shooters. I think Worcester's a solid facilitator, some decent bigs, but Tominaga, was basically their entire offense last year, along with Rink Mast, who's out for the year now. I think they have solid players. I think they're going to lack a lot of scoring.
Josh?
Yeah, I'm with Joey on this. I think it's like this team. It's a bunch of role players all in together. I mean, I think Fred Hoiberg did a phenomenal job. We did a pretty solid job in the portal. I'm pretty high on Connor Seaton if he can really, get back to that freshman year form, great shooter, kind of creating his own shot. That's a huge plus for Nebraska. Bryce Williams, a great role player, he can shoot the ball. Juwan Gary, great defensively. It's just, again, I don't see this team doing more than average. I think they're just doing lower to maybe average in the Big Ten. So unfortunate because, I was a big fan last year in Nebraska. They were fun to watch. I was big Tominaga fan. So, but it's this year, it's might be done for the Cornhuskers.
Right. Well, I'm going to tell you this. Aaron Eulis is betting on this team.
Aaron, oh, yeah?
That's a joke. It's a joke. He was suspended for, I guess, all of last year for
oh, yeah, I forgot
the
about
gambling scandal.
Yeah,
oh, my
yeah.
God. Come on, guys. All right.
Oh, man.
So now we're moving on to what I would consider kind of the teams that are probably going to be in the lower half of the conference. We're going to move on to USC. And basically anybody who contributed last year beside Harrison Horne, Australian power forward, is gone. So that's players like Isaiah Collier, Kobe Johnson, Boogie Ellis, center Josh Morgan, all gone. So the big names in the portal, well, I don't even know if you would call them big names, but they certainly were highly productive players, most of them where they were before, would be Desmond Claude, combo guard from Xavier, Terrence Williams, a wing from Michigan, Chibozo Agbo, a wing, 3-and-D kind of wing from Boise State, St. Thomas, friend of the show, forward from Northern Colorado, and Josh Cohen, big man for UMass, center. A couple other guys that are probably worth mentioning is Matt Noling. I think Matt may have been the player of the year in the Ivy about 3 years ago, I think. Certainly was probably an all-conference player. Had some injury issues, and I think his last season or two wasn't, or at least last season, he wasn't up to par. Rashawn Agee, a real big burly guy coming in from Bowling Green, but definitely can get you points in the paint and rebounds, and the list goes on, actually. In terms of freshmen coming in, they have two top 70 guys. Isaiah Olheim comes in at number 51, a wing in the composite rankings, and forward Jalen Shelley at number 62. So basically they're starting from scratch here, and they got a new coach in Musselman. He didn't really hit a home run here in the portal. You got a bunch of good guys, but the question is, can they? A lot of them are moving up, moving up in competition. Another player actually worth noting, who was I think a top 50 guy last year, maybe top 40, was Wesley Yates, a shooting guard, who didn't play at Washington last year, but he was a 4-star. I believe he's still hobbled, so we don't have him. We're not sure when he's going to be available to play, but you could throw him in with those other two top 70 recruits. So there's definitely some promise for the future. I don't know. What are you thinking, Josh?
I mean, it's when I think of like what Musselman did at Arkansas, like he had decent success. Went to the tournament a bunch. He went to the Elite Eight, and now he's coming over to USC, and it's a brand new team. And one guy that really sticks out to me is Desmond Claude. I thought he was a terrific player for Xavier. Losing him for Xavier's a big loss. I think he can really be a focal point for this USC offense, and he can run the team how he should. And these are a bunch of all from different schools and conferences. They got to mesh well together and stuff. They got to learn to coexist as a team. So it's going to take some time, but these are a lot of good players on this list, and I think this team could be a tournament team, honestly.
Yeah, I think it all depends on
how well they mesh.
Yeah, and also how well they adjust to the next level on competition.
True.
I mean, St. Thomas and Josh Cohen were two of the most productive players in the country last year.
Right. Yeah.
But can they do it, as they move up? Any thoughts, Joey?
Yeah, I mean, you guys pretty much covered it. Like, these guys, there are now 11 new players, only one returner. We just have no idea how well these guys are going to fit. That's why I don't have them making the tournament. I think Musselman's a great coach, and the things he's done in Arkansas, like, I think that this team will definitely be good down the line, and that Musselman will find success here in USC. But I think it's a little bit too early this year. Although I do really like Josh Cohen. I think he's a great scorer, a good rebounder. He has a lot of passing potential. I think he could be a focal point of the offense as well.
Yeah, I know in a recent scrimmage, Claude was the standout, and he's, to me, he's the highest draft prospect on this team. I've always liked this game. The one thing he needs to add is a consistent jump shot, and then he could be very, very dangerous. So we'll move on to Wisconsin. This is a team that I don't know. I think they kind of underachieved last year. I really liked their guards. I liked all the shooters they had. I liked the fact that they had a big, a reliable big man. But so they've lost AJ Storr to Kansas. Chucky Hepburn goes to Louisville. Tyler Wall went to the pros, and Connor Essegian went to Nebraska. So who's left? Stephen Crowell, their big center, still there, and he could score inside and out. He's got a decent jump shot. John Blackwell, who had a solid freshman year, he's back. Max Kleinschmidt, who's kind of a shooting specialist, 3-point specialist. Nolan Winter, a power forward. Kamari McGee, undersized point guard. So, that's the core that's coming back. Also Carter Gilmore, who got, fairly regular minutes last year. But when you look at the freshmen coming in and the guys they got in the portal, it looks like Wisconsin's just bound to take a downturn when you compare the new guys coming in to the guys that left. I'm not even sure. Xavier Amos had a really nice season at Northern Illinois last year, but, is he up to playing at this level? John Tunji, who started at Colorado State and then went to Missouri. He was injured a good portion of last year. He's kind of a 3-and-D guy. Their top recruit is Daniel, I think it's Freitag, is a point guard. He's numbered 127 in the composite, so it's pretty far down the list. Again, Joey, I'll start with you. What do you think of? There still is a fair amount of continuity, but I'm just looking at who they lost and who they're bringing in, and it doesn't look like an equal exchange.
Oh, I completely agree, Rich. AJ Storr, Hepburn, Tyler Wall, they were great. Essegian had that really good first season. I think Crowell, Blackwell, and Klesmet are solid pieces. Klesmet's a good shooter. Crowell's been consistent. I think Nolan Winter has a lot of potential to grow into that quintessential Wisconsin big role. But those four alone aren't going to propel you to the top of the Big Ten. And when I look at Tanji, Amos, and Hunter, I just see three guys who haven't proven to me that they're going to excel coming to the Big Ten from, Northern Illinois, Central Arkansas, and Tanji playing at Colorado State. So I think this team will be kind of middle of the pack. I definitely have my reservations with them.
Yeah, I think middle of the pack, they might even be lower than that. What do you think?
I agree with that. Yeah, I don't even have them in the middle of the pack for me. It's like you lose, I think, three very key players. AJ Storr is a phenomenal wing. Tyler Wall goes to the pros, and Chucky, he was your point guard. And, Stephen Crowell's, he's a good center, in the Big Ten. Decent shot and rebound, and Kleisman, he can shoot the ball well, but there's not a number one guy for me here whatsoever. It's a bunch of decent, good role players, and in these transfers, they haven't really played in a tough environment in the Big Ten. I just don't see this team doing very well.
Yeah, I mean, somebody would really have to up their game, like Blackwell or Winter, I think, or both, for this team to even have a chance. I mean, when you look at last year's squad, they probably lost 3 of their top 4 players from last year. Yeah. So, and the weird thing is they could have kept most of them. So, there's been talk about, people not being super happy with Greg Gard at Wisconsin, and this isn't going to help him a lot. Because I think the team's definitely going to take a step back this year. All right, so we move on to Washington, one of the newcomers to the conference. They weren't very good last year, and they lost some of their best players from last year. In fact, they lost most of their best players from last year. Keon Brooks, a former Kentucky guy, left for the pros. Corin Johnson left for Louisville. Severe Wheeler's gone. Moses Wood, Paul McCahey, Braxton Mee. They bring back basically Frank Kepnang and Will Breidenbach. And Kepnang could be a great center, like a defensive player of the year candidate, but the poor guy just can't stay healthy. He's just always hurt, but I mean, he's super, super energetic defender when he is healthy. But last time I heard, he was still on the mend, so might not be ready for the start of the season. So in the portal, they bring in Great Azabor, friend of the show, player of the year in the Mountain West. He is their big key piece that they bring in from Utah State, a power forward / center, massive man, can score inside and out, but definitely excels on the inside. DJ Davis, a little combo guard from Butler, comes over. Tyler Harris from Portland, who missed a good portion of last year due to injury, though he is a pro prospect. For those people might not know, don't follow Portland too closely. So he's an intriguing piece on this team. And then they bring in a bunch of other guys that are kind of, most of them are moving up a level and not too exciting, to be honest. Their freshman class includes point guard Zoom Diallo. He's number 42 in the composite rankings, a point guard. And also Jace Butler, another guard, coming in at 113 in the composite rankings. So, Joey, I'll start with you again. What do you make of this Washington club?
Well, I think that Danny Sprinkle's done a good job of setting them up for the future. I just think that indicates that they're not going to be successful right away. I mean, they're bringing in all new guys. A lot of these guys, we don't really know how they're going to do in the Big Ten. I mean, looking at Tyler Harris from Portland, Mason from Rice, Courtwright from Rhode Island, a guy from North Dakota and Oakland. So a lot of new pieces. Osabor is incredibly talented, but I'm a little bit worried with how his play style is going to flow in the Big Ten, just because there's the rim protection in the Big Ten compared to the Mountain West is night and day, or the Western Conference, and I think he might struggle a little bit in the Big Ten. However, Zoom Diallo, I've been really impressed by. I feel like he does everything you could want offensively for a point guard. He can shoot, he can pass, he can drive. I think he's definitely going to be a special player, but Washington in this first season, I'm a little skeptical about.
Yeah, I mean, they might be able to use Azabor at the 4, and Kepnang at the 5, and that might be the solution. But even let's say Kepnang's healthy for the whole season and Azabor can play at the 4, the best you can say about this team is they're going to have a good starting 5, which is great, but you need a little more than that if you want to finish in the top 4 or 5 in this conference. And that's a lot of wishful thinking. You're assuming that there's going to be a big jump from Tyler Harris. You're assuming Kepnang's going to stay healthy, and you're going to assume Osobor can do something that he hasn't done before. And I'll tell you what, the last time we saw Osobor, he was totally taken out of the game by Zach Edey. Now, he's not the only player to have that happen, but for some guy who prides himself on strength and being a force, in the paint, it was just kind of embarrassing. And I hate to say that because, Great's been on the show and everything else, but he really seemed rattled by it. And he was like just awful in that game. Now, he doesn't have to face Zach Edey again, at least not at this level, but I don't know. Josh, you have any thoughts?
I will say I kind of liked what Danny Sprinkle did with the transfer portal. I'm a big fan of DJ Davis. I thought he was a really good offensive player for Butler last year. He was able to create his own shot, good shooter. I think that's a great get for Washington. Zoom Diallo, I was watching a bunch of his highlights in the AAU circuit, and my God, that dude, he's quick. He's just like his name, Zoom, and like 3-level scorer. He scores his own will, plays at his own pace. It's a beauty to watch, honestly. And Osobor, I mean, he has the capability of being, Big Ten Player of the Year. But yeah, like you guys said, like different environment. The rim protection in the Big Ten is one of the best in the country, and it was the first year for Washington in the Big Ten. I think it's going to take some time to adjust from moving over from the Pac-12. So but I do think there's going to be flashes of this team. I do think so. I think they'll be competitive in the conference, but this year is not their year.
Right. Here's the other thing about Osobor. He's not a shot blocker. So if you play him at the 5, you don't have a lot.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of rim protection.
Defensive, yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully he's. I think the key for him, is to not rely so much on power, drop some weight, and become a little more perimeter oriented, and then I think he would do better in college and also do in pros, because he's just not going to be able to dominate like he did in the Mountain West in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're going to talk about a team that I know we have some differing opinions on, and this is kind of my home club. I'm only about an hour away from the arena, hour and a half maybe. And that's Rutgers. And Rutgers loses pretty much anybody who contributed big minutes to the club except for 2 players. And that's Jeremiah Williams, who actually came in and played really well last year for the team. Didn't play the whole season, though. I forget why. I guess he was hurt. And also Jermichael Davis, who had a decent year, 2 combo guards right there. But Cliff Amore, their big center, defensive presence, one of the few players that could actually, match up with Edey. Even though Edey still got his points and stuff, I think he had to work more against Amore. He's going on to Alabama, among others. And then coming in, I was kind of disappointed with what they brought in the portal. They do bring in another combo guard. They got combo guards all over the place, and that's Tyson Acuff, and he's from Eastern Michigan. Averaged over 20 points per game last year. They also bring in Jordan Derrick, who's kind of like a big guard. He could do a little bit of everything. He dominated at the Merrimack level, but can he do it at this level? That's yet to be seen. And there's Zach Martini, comes over from Princeton. He's a stretch 4. PJ Hayes, a wing from San Diego. He's a former D2 player, I believe. And so, yeah, I'm not overly inspired by this recruiting class. Portal class, I should say. Now, a little different when we get to the recruiting class, because Rutgers probably has the best, or close to it, the recruiting freshman class in the country. They bring in small forward Ace Bailey, number 2 in the composite rankings. Combo guard Dylan Harper at number 3 in the composite rankings. Lathan Somerville is a center. He comes in at number 131. They also bring in forward Dylan Grant, 163, and also forward Bryce Dortch at 219. So as you can see, this team is mostly going to be made up of freshmen. I don't know if you can call players in the portal at this young age journeymen, but they almost seem like journeymen, except for maybe a cuff. And the only leftover I'm really excited about is Jeremiah Williams. So it's all going to depend on the young guys, I think. Wait, what do you think, Josh?
So pretty recently, Rutgers was in an exhibition match with the Johnnies, St. John's Red Storm, and I tuned in. Big fan of the Red Storm, and I just like to say I was blown away by Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. It's a two-man game with those two. They looked phenomenal. It just seems like the game is just so in slow motion with these two, scoring at ease at any moment of time. It's a wonder. It's a wonder to watch, honestly. And I think that's like a main thing. Like you said, it's going to come down to these two. This is going to come down to this whole freshman class here. I think Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper can really, they can shine and they can bring this team back to the tournament. While yes, they'll be, losing out on Cliff Amori, losing Hyatt, Mawat Mag, Derek Simpson. Those are big guys that you're losing. But I think that equals out with these two big guys that you're coming in from this freshman class. And I think a problem that Rutgers has been had in the past couple of years was their shooting ability, their offensive ability.
I agree.
And I think, bringing in these two guys who can, create their own shot and, do their own thing it's a huge boost, for Steve Peikel's team. And I also love to say Zach Martini. I think that dude's a great player. He's a dog. He rebounds well. They named him the captain. I think this team can really do a lot of damage in the Big Ten. It's going to take some time, adjusting. High school and I are going to be playing in the Big Ten with a bunch of big guys, 7-footers. But this is a tournament team in my eyes, honestly.
I know Zach a little bit, and I don't know how many people know this, but Zach is actually considering, when everything's all said and done, of perhaps instead of trying out for the NBA, trying out for the NFL as a tight end.
He's a big guy. He's a
very big guy.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking, Joey, about this team? Are you thinking they lower end of the pack, higher end of the pack, or in the middle?
Oh, I got some mixed feelings. I think I have them just missing the tournament. I'm fully in on the Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey hype. I think they're going to be phenomenal players. I just think I can't expect them to reach their full potential so soon. I feel like they might need a season or two to really get to where I think they're going to get. And even if they absolutely pop off this year, I just don't think that Rutgers has a supporting cast. I think that Cliff Amori is a huge loss at center, and having that big rebounder and shot blocker, I don't know that Rutgers has that. We don't really know what they have with Lathan Somerville yet, but I don't think he's going to immediately fill Amori's role. My other issue with this team is the three-point shooting. I'm looking at their top combo guards and wings. Williams, Davis, Acuff, Durkak, both shooting in the 20 percentile in three-point shooting, and Bailey's three-point shot has also been a little bit of a question mark. If Martini and Hayes, who both shot in the upper 30s%, are getting consistent minutes, that might ease my suspicions a little bit. But I think they're going to be good in the long term. I wouldn't put them in the tournament just yet.
It's almost as if when you look at this roster construction, it's almost if they got caught with their pants down with Cliff Amori leaving. I was surprised when I heard it. I know Cliff a little bit, text with him a little bit, and I was like, dude, you're leaving? And well, no, I was going to tell a story, but no, I better not. That school would probably never allow me to have a guest from that school again, so I won't tell that story. But anyway, it's one of the schools recruiting him. But anyway, I was surprised he was leaving, because I thought man, this is your chance. Everybody loves you at Rutgers. They need an anchor. Now they're going to have some explosive players. And yeah, and it wasn't like, you understand it when, like when a player comes in and the player that currently has this position, leaves, it's like, okay, they're bringing in Dylan Harper and I'm the point guard. So I'm going to leave because I'm not going to get any time. But with Cliff, there wasn't anybody coming in that was going to take his minutes. He would automatically plug and play with his team, and I would be so much more comfortable with them. So I just don't know if there's enough surrounding the other, the big freshmen. So, all right. So we'll move on to Penn State. Penn State lost Kanye Clary to Mississippi State. They also lost Qadis Wahab, big center, to the pros. They were their two big losses. And they bring back, everybody else. But the problem is that everybody else last year was kind of so-so, except for Ace Baldwin, the reigning defensive player of the year. And I really like Ace. Got a great game. And, players like Zach Hicks, Nick Kern, Puff Johnson, who actually Puff Johnson's Cam Johnson's younger brother, DeMarco Dunn, they're all solid players, but nothing that you rather have them being like maybe a couple of them starting and maybe a couple of them being your first guys off the bench. But most of those guys are probably going to have to start. Now, I will say there's one really bright spot in this recruiting class, and that's Freddie DeLeon. A combo guard that really hardly played for Tennessee. I think this guy is a little underrated when he came out in the recruiting class. I think he reclassified, and he was a 4-star and top 50 guy though. And I think he might be more like a top 25 guy. And, I think he's more like a 5-star than he is a 4-star. We shall see. He's going to get to play this year. I think he'll start for this team. The rest of the guys coming in, I'm not too excited about. I mean, there is Yannick Niedenheiser, and I think he's like 7'2", coming from Northern Illinois. Let me just check on that. 7'1", and he's originally a Swiss, born in Switzerland. Check this out, though. He only played less than 20 minutes per game last year for Northern Illinois and blocked 2.1 shots. So he's my kind of guy. I want a center to block some shots. So that's good. Can he do it at this level? Probably at 7'1". He's probably not going to have too much trouble. The recruiting class is not overly exciting. They only brought in 2 top 150 guys. Both of them are 4-stars. Miles Goodman, a center at 108. He might see some early playing time, and also Hudson Ward, a small forward at 136. So again, Josh, I'll start with you. What do you make of the Nittany Lions? Any hope here?
Unfortunately, Rich, I do not have a lot of hope for the Nittany Lions. I mean, you're bringing back, your core, Ace Baldwin Jr., terrific player, reigning decoy, Zach Hicks, good. These are all good players, Puff Johnson, DeMarco Dunn.
Yeah, Nick Kern is probably one of the better athletes in the Big 10, but it doesn't necessarily always translate to, a lot of stats.
Exactly. And, you're losing out on, I'm pretty high on Kanye Clary. I think he's a great player, good offensive combo guard. And I'm looking at, at the transfer portal, it's nothing that's really eye-opening to me, and in the recruiting class, and it's hard for Penn State. I can't really see them doing, getting more than maybe 7-8 wins in the Big Ten. I just don't see them, moving up to even just the middle echelon of the Big Ten.
Right. Penn State there for a while looked like they were on the verge of actually having a legitimate basketball program, but who was their coach who got in trouble?
Shrewsbury?
No.
Micah Shrewsbury? I don't know.
Before Shrewsbury, Pat. Oh, I think he's at Florida Gulf Coast now. Anyway, Joey, what do you make of Penn State?
Yeah, I'm with Josh on this one. I think Penn State just lacks the offensive scoring, the three-point shooting. Baldwin's a great player, but we don't really know what we have in Niederhausen offensively, if he can, what that two-man game is going to look like. Penn State doesn't really have great shooters to surround Baldwin with. They also don't really have good one-on-one scorers. Hicks and Kern they're athletic, they're solid defensively, Buff Johnson as well, but not really consistent knockdown shooters or go get me a bucket kind of guys. I think DeMarco Dunn has a lot of potential this year. He's a solid scorer, solid three-point shooter. I think if he gets a good amount of minutes, he could help contribute to this team. DeLeon as well. But I think they just lack the offensive firepower.
Right. Yeah. Clary scored so much for them last year. I think he was like 17 a game or close to it. So yeah. All right, so now we're going to move on to Joey's team, Northwestern. He's got some surprises for us. I have, in my order, I have Northwestern finishing next to last, but Joey says no, sir. So we shall see. So who does Northwestern lose? Two key players. Boo Buie, who was there for 17 years, graduated, and he was a bucket. And Ryan Landberg, a transfer, I believe, from Princeton, Ryan was. And he was a great three-point shooter and did a really nice job when Ty Berry got hurt last year. The three best players that are coming back are all coming off of injuries. And in fact, Ty Berry just got cleared to play. Matthew Nicholson just got cleared to play, the big center. And Brooks Barnheiser, best pro prospect on this team, still nursing something, though. I don't think it's going to prevent him to be ready for the start of the season, but I don't think it's overly serious. But point being is all these guys, are coming off injuries. So they also bring back Nick Martinelli, Blake Smith, and Luke Hunger. The latter of two didn't really play a ton last year. In the transfer portal, I'm really not excited. They bring in Jalen Leach, a combo guard from Fairfield, and Keenan Fitzsimmons, a center from Stony Brook. Also, they didn't do very well recruiting. Not one single top 200 guy. They did get number 201 combo guard KJ Wyndham, and they also got number 214 wing Angelo Ciravino. So that's Northwestern. Joey, go for it. Tell me why I'm wrong.
All right, so Northwestern, Boo Buie, admittedly, is a huge loss. Langborg also a big loss, but Northwestern, they did most of their success they achieved last year was with Ty Berry out and Langborg in. So now that's just reversed. So you could argue they cancel out. Now the big issue is who's going to fill Boo Buie's role. Brooks Barnheiser, big fan of Brooks Barnheiser. He's really blossomed from more of a catch and shoot guy to someone who can really create his own shot off the dribble. Went from 7 points to 14 in the last 2 seasons, and I think he could get that up even more to maybe 17, 18. Jalen Leach also, he's from a smaller school in Fairfield, but he has good splits. He's a really athletic player. He can pass, he can shoot. Obviously he's not going to fill Boo Buie's shoes, but I think that he can really help contribute to this team. Martinelli is a solid player. Nicholson was solid defensively and rebounding, and Luke Hunger. I have heard a lot of buzz about this guy. He's coming into his sophomore year, didn't really play much freshman year, but he's big, he's strong, and he has a lot of potential. My case really with Northwestern is that they were solid last year, and I think that if they plug those holes, they could be a fringe tournament team again this year.
You make a good point. Barnheiser has a lot of that Payton Sandfort to him, I see a lot of similarities between the two. Barry can be a bucket. Nicholson, I think, can even shoot some. And Chris Collinsworth always does get these guys to overachieve. So maybe you're right. What do you think, Josh?
I just you're losing out on two of your big guys, losing out on Boo Buie and Langborg, and I'm looking at Barnheiser, obviously great player, set 15 points a game, but I'm seeing like he's playing almost 37 minutes a game. I just don't see how that's like so sustainable for even he's just being the second or third guy last year doing 37 minutes.
And they're all coming, and the big three are all coming into the season banged up.
Exactly. So I just don't see him being like so healthy and being sustainably doing another 37 minutes a game or even more. So
yeah,
but then again, like I don't know, like Northwestern always does well.
If you can somehow get lucky, I mean, we've talked about a lot of teams, they really have the potential to have a really nice starting five, but where's the rest? Yeah. If you get lucky, and maybe you can go through the whole season with a 6, 7, 8 man. Well, 8 man's not bad, but 6 or 7 man rotation, that's not good. Maybe they can get away with it, but yeah, I think the odds are.
I think
I don't know.
I admit the odds are stacked against them. Northwestern, Iowa were kind of my two out there picks for the tournament. I think the real question mark here is Jalen Leach. I really like what I've seen from him, and I think if he can fit that Boo Buie role just a little bit, just make up for that scoring just enough that they can get back there. They don't have much depth this year, I'll admit, but they also didn't have that much more depth last year.
Yeah, right.
Barry was hurt as well, and Boo Buie was there, Leach wasn't. And then the rest of the guys are coming back.
Northwestern's never a deep team, ever.
Right.
Doesn't happen. All right.
I think if Jalen Leach could have a good year, I think they could be there.
All right. The next team we're going to talk about, and man, this team could have been good. Could have been good. But they lost, in my eyes, 4 of their top 6 players, and that's Minnesota. They lost Elijah Hawkins to Texas Tech. Their point guard, Cam Christie, goes to the pros, probably went too soon, probably been better off staying, in school. Farrell Payne, man, when he came on, I can remember.
He's a good player.
Oh, really good player. I'm telling you, I texted Cliff Amore before they played Minnesota, and I said, don't take Farrell Payne lightly, because this is just when Payne's minutes were going up. And I said, don't take him lightly, man. I mean, I'm like, this guy's a beast, and he's strong.
He's a big boy.
And he actually won that battle. That was a home game for Minnesota, but he outplayed Cliff. And they also lose Joshua Olajoseph to California. He was a nice utility guy. And the only 2 significant players coming back are Dawson Garcia, who's an excellent player, excellent power forward. He could stretch the court. He could score inside. Great player. But, man, he's going to have not much around him. Mike Mitchell, the guard, returns. The best transfer is probably Lucai Patterson from Charlotte, who had a nice year last year. I think he was about 14 points a game and about 3+ assists per game. But yeah, another player worth mentioning, but he's going to be out for a while, is Tyler Cochran. He is the reigning defensive player of the year from the MAC. He played at Toledo, and he would have been a nice piece. He's much better on the defensive end, but he could play some 1, 2, maybe even 3 for you, because he plays bigger than his size. But I think he's going to be out till at least mid-December with an injury. So, and also the best freshman they brought in was point guard Isaac Suma, and he was number 188 in the composite rankings. So, Josh, start with you. Any hope here? Am I missing something? Or
I think you covered it all. I mean, you're losing 4 of your 6 best players. Losing a guy like Cameron Christie, went to the pros, got drafted by the LA Clippers. I think he should have stayed another year. I don't really think he's going to get a lot of burn for them. He's going to spend a lot of time in the G League. Losing out on Pharrell Payne, who I'm very high on. I think he's going to be a great center for Texas A&M. Even Joshua Olajoseph had some great strides for them. And, the only eye-opening guy is, this guy, Big Ten guy, Dawson Garcia. He's the only, great player, good power forward, can really, get to his own shot, rebounds the ball well. Mike Mitchell, he's going to have to start, being that number. He's going to have to be that number 2 guy, maybe, averaged 10 points a game last year, almost, he almost was 40% from 3 though. So, he's a good shooter. So, and a lot of these transfers are a bunch of question marks as well. A lot of different schools, a lot of different conferences they're in. In reality, I don't see that this team even just moving up to, the middle of the echelon of the Big Ten. I do think this team will still be at the bottom of the Big Ten.
Yeah. Anything to add, Joey?
I pretty much agree with what Josh said. I mean, Garcia is a solid player. Mitchell's a solid shooter. I think Patterson could actually be pretty good. Transfer guard from Charlotte, just like Jameer Young. I was really impressed by his tape, but that's 3 solid players. That's just not going to be enough in the Big Ten. They're definitely going to be towards the bottom.
Yeah. I don't know. This team had so much potential last year, and they were highly competitive, especially when Pharrell Payne got rolling. I'm actually shocked that Dawson Garcia stayed. Because with everybody else leaving that was really good last year, and them not bringing in anybody really, any big names to help him, the chances of this team succeeding just seem the worst of all the 18 teams we just got done talking about.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Dawson Garcia.
He's a good player too. And it's like, I don't know, it's kind of a rough situation for him, but I guess, his last year he wants, I guess maybe be loyal to, the Golden Gophers, gave him a chance when he transferred from UNC. And but it's gonna be rock bottom.
He must have a really good relationship with the coach or somebody,
Probably,
that makes him be loyal. But I feel bad. I think it's going to be a long ass season for him.
True.
Yeah.
All right. So now we'll get to our picks. We'll go through the champions. Actually, you guys can just read off your own picks. So we'll start with you, Joey. We got to talk about champions, then at-large bids. And you guys have a lot of teams in the Big Ten making it. Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and Freshman of the Year. So go ahead, Joey.
All right, so my champ, we talked about it a little bit earlier. I have Michigan State. My teams that I have making it, Michigan State, of course, gets the auto bid. And then Indiana, Purdue, Ohio State, Iowa, Oregon, Michigan, Illinois, UCLA, and my Northwestern Wildcats. I guess I'm a fan now. My player of the year, I got Payton Sandfort from Iowa, Depoy, Owen Freeman from Iowa. I guess I'm an Iowa fan too. And then freshman of the year, number 3 recruit in the nation, Dylan Harper.
All righty.
And for my Big Ten predictions, my Big Ten champ, my soon-to-be alma mater, the Indiana Hoosiers, at large bids, auto bid, the Indiana Hoosiers. I've got Illinois, even though I'm not very high on Purdue, Michigan State, UCLA, Ohio State, Oregon, Rutgers, Michigan, and USC. My player of the year, I've got Jackson Shielstead from Oregon. My defensive player of the year, I've got running it back-to-back, Ace Baldwin Jr. from Penn State. And the freshman of the year, the third best player in the country, freshman in the country, Dylan Harper from Rutgers.
All righty. And I have a lot fewer bids. If you do the math, last year, 6 teams from the conference made it. Now, of course, the conference expanded, and one of those teams that from last year also made it. So one of those 4, Oregon. So that'd be 7. And that's what I'm projecting for the Big Ten is they get 7 in. I got to admit, for me personally, there's no one really stands out to win this conference. And man, once you get to the middle, the teams aren't very deep. And yeah, I just don't know if this, with the 18 team conference, I think 9 is the max they'll get in. But I'm projecting 7 while you guys are both projecting 10. So my champions, Michigan State. I went with Indiana, Oregon, UCLA, Ohio State, Illinois, and then I have an either or scenario, starting with Iowa, Purdue, Michigan, Maryland, or Nebraska. You're officially all on bubble alert because I think that 1, maybe 2 of those teams make it and the rest don't. So we shall see. My player of the year is also Payton Sandfort, our guest today. And defensive player of the year was interesting. I thought very much about Joey's pick of Owen Freeman. There are also some guys that have a lot of potential. Like imagine Mara playing like 27, 28 minutes per game at 7'4". He could be a defensive player of the year. But I went with Kobe Johnson of USC. He has NBA athleticism. He had been known as a lockdown defender. Last year at USC was just a total mess. And I think he'll regroup this year, and also playing in that system at UCLA that really does like to emphasize defense more so than anybody. I think that he'll regain his defensive mojo. And lastly, I went with freshman of the year. I chose Ace Bailey just because you guys both chose Dylan Harper. So I thought I'd be a little different, but I have no argument with Dylan Harper, but I'll go with Ace Bailey. So from Rutgers as well. So any final thoughts before we roll that interview with Payton Sandfort?
Go Hoosiers, man. It's our year. I'm excited.
Yeah. I think the teams at the top, there are a lot of teams like UCLA and Illinois who could be really, really good.
It's question marks, though.
Yeah, a lot of question marks because of inexperience. All right. Any final thoughts, Joey?
Well, I'd say go Buckeyes, but I guess more go Wildcats and Hawkeyes just because I want to be proven right.
Yeah.
You will learn if you stay in the business of, sports journalism, that your favorite teams as a kid or whatever, even through college, all of a sudden you start rooting for what you predicted, and you might end up rooting for teams that you used to say, I hate these guys. You'll be rooting for them because you predicted them to do well. So it's kind of funny that way, but it's true. All right, we'll roll the Payton Sandfort interview, and that will wrap up our Big Ten show.
Yep.
All righty. Today, our special guest is Iowa senior Payton Sandfort. All Big Ten selection last season. Payton averaged 16.4 points, 6.6 rebounds, 2.7 assists per game, while shooting 45% from the floor, 38% from deep, 91% from the free throw line. He ranked in the top 10 of the Big Ten for three-point percentage, free throw percentage, effective field goal percentage, offensive rating, player efficiency rating, and plus minus. Welcome to the show, Payton. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
I'm very glad you're here because before you ever even got the letter in the mail that you were invited to the NBA Combine, we tried to get you all last season. So we were ahead of the curve. So I really wanted to get you on last year, but it didn't happen. But this is great. You're going to be on our Big Ten preview show. So you're going to be the highlight of our preseason Big Ten preview. So that's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, good stuff.
All right. So I'm going to start with the hard-hitting questions. You ever heard, you probably have, that your family name is based on what your family used to do in the past, like Smith, they used to be blacksmiths?
I've heard that.
Okay. So I have to ask, what are the origins of your family name? Were they professional Sandfort builders or what?
That's the first time I've been asked that question, and that I couldn't tell you. I want to believe that they were professional Sandfort builders, but I guess there's no way of knowing.
Well, do you know your heritage? Like, do you on Ancestry.com or anything like that?
It's a lot of Germans and Swedish people. So
okay, I
yeah.
too am part Swedish. So
Okay.
I'm mostly from the UK and Ireland, but
yeah,
got some Swedish in me,
Yeah.
and German.
Yeah.
All right, so we're from the same part of the world, except you're a foot taller. So, all right. So, how about your first name? I noticed, you're born in 2002. That's around when the Colts were pretty good, and they had this guy at quarterback that was pretty good. You wouldn't happen to be named after him, would you?
I'm not named after him. I actually grew up a huge Colts fan because of him, though. I'm still a huge Colts fan, and he's probably one of my favorite athletes of all time, but I was not named after him. I don't know where my name came from. I think it was just kind of a random thing.
Okay.
My mom liked it, so.
So now today at practice, if you haven't practiced already, all you're going to be thinking about is, where'd my last name come from? Where'd my first name come from?
The last name one's interesting. I'll have to figure that out. I don't know.
Yeah, I tried to look up mine too. I forget what it was though. It wasn't anything like, you're the greatest king of all time or something like that. It didn't. I don't know. I think it actually might have French origins.
Interesting.
Harris, I think. But anyway.
I don't know.
All right. So I'm going to go over your synergy numbers, which is going to lead me into a question because I find these pretty intriguing. First, I'll start with shot types. And for people who don't know, synergy breaks you down by your play type and also the type of shots you break down. Last year as a jump shooter, 88% overall, 78% on the catch and shoot, 91%. These are all percentiles I'm throwing out there. 91% on off the dribble jumpers. So then when I go to play types, this is where it gets intriguing. Spot up, 98th percentile in the country. Also, handoffs, 93rd. And then down, they sort it by how often you do it. Pick and roll handler, 97th. And then way at the bottom, but still 98th percentile for post-ups. So my question for you is, at 6'7", you usually called a forward. But in your mind, what is your natural position?
To me, it's more it's like a guard, forward mix, but I would say almost more guard. I always played up when I was younger, so I'd always kind of handled the ball a lot.
Right.
And then had huge growth spurts in high school to get to 6'7", but I also would work on a ton of post moves. So I played in the post a ton in high school. I played like our power forward position. And then when I played AAU, I'd play like a two guard. So it kind of mixed it up. I can kind of play pretty much everything. And even this year at Iowa, I'll play pretty much the 1 through the 4, pretty much in every game. So
right. And versatility is the name of the game these days. So
exactly.
That's awesome. You made steady progress, your 3 years at Iowa. As a sophomore, you were named sixth man of the year in the conference. Last year, you make all conference, and then you received the invite to the NBA Combine. So nice, steady progression there. What was the Combine experience like? Just generally, what was it like?
Yeah, it was really, really special. It's kind of like almost like a show while also trying to showcase. I think a lot of the NBA teams kind of know what they're getting into, so they kind of tell you, the games don't really mean a whole lot. The testing is important, but they kind of already know who you are as an athlete and as a shooter. So the biggest part of those is kind of the interviews that you do. The teams really get to know who you are. So I interviewed with the Sixers and the Nuggets, and both of those went really well, and had some deals on the table. But I thought the Combine was awesome, getting to meet with all the players that you kind of watch on TV and some of the guys that from playing against them in AAU or from just other games against them. And I made some friends down there, and it was a really good time.
Okay. What was the most memorable or interesting thing that happened?
I think so. In the back half of the Combine week, you do like all this medical testing stuff, get MRIs, and they just
did they just do one now? Because I knew they used to be like every team wanted to do their own medical exam, but is it just one exam?
They just do one that they share with all the teams. You can meet with other teams or specialists on the side,
right?
But during the MRI day, I ended up having to get like 7 MRIs, and I'd never missed a game in my career. Like I didn't have anything wrong. They
Jeez.
just wanted to check things. They're looking at ankles and knees, and all of it came back positive. So it's just, but I mean, you're there like the whole day. I was there with PJ Hall from Clemson, and we were just like, get us out of here.
Did you have headphones so you don't have to listen to?
Yep. They had some music in it, but the sound was so loud you really couldn't even hear the music.
I know. I had back issues for years, and I actually just had surgery, so I'm much better. I should have had surgery 20 years ago, but I've had enough MRIs to know that I hate them.
Oh yeah, it feels like you're in there forever, and everything goes numb, and
yeah. And the noise is just horrible.
Yeah, it doesn't stop.
So what did you take away in terms of learning? It was practical knowledge that you could use down the road?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to approach every workout that you're in every day that like you're the best player in the gym. I think that's what really separates the guys at the NBA level from the guys even at our level or from the guys in the G League. And I mean, a lot of the guys in the G League have that same mindset, but it's hard to have it when you're on the floor with some of the best players in the world. But that's really what carries, especially the really good shooters, to being able to make it and stay in the NBA for as long as they can.
Okay. Did they ask you, or did they, like I talked to Max Schulga. Do you know Max?
Yeah.
Okay. So Max told me the one thing he took away from it was they told him, we know you're a point guard. We know you shoulder a lot of scoring, responsibilities as well. But we want to see you every play on defense, giving it your all. No taking off any plays. And so in order to do that, you got to improve your conditioning. Now, this is a guy who general public would say looks like a perfect physical specimen like yourself. And they're telling him to get in better shape.
Yeah,
did they tell you something like that?
They did, yeah, because like to be able to sustain that defensive effort with kind of the load that we have to take on offense, pretty much in possession, you have to be in unbelievable shape. And that's something I've always prided myself on, but it's something, you can always improve on as well. At some point you're going to get tired, and it's the guys that can push through that are able to, win games and make a big impact down the stretch.
Even as a scout, I always kind of give guys who shoulder a huge load on the offensive end kind of a little bit of a break on the defensive end. I'm thinking you can't do everything, but apparently the NBA wants you to do everything.
If you want to make it, I think you got to be able to do everything.
Right. All right. So next question. So given that, you went through that process, is there anything particular after that you focused on in your game? Will we see a little different Payton this season?
I think it's just going to be a more expanded role this year, and that kind of comes with what I need to do for our team at Iowa to win, and it comes from the training that I've put in and just the confidence that I have in all my other skills as well. And it's still going to be a lot of shooting, but it's going to be a lot of handling the ball, playing in the post, making plays, rebounding, defending. I need to have a complete game, and I did learn a ton from that process, and I'm excited to put it on the floor. And then the other piece is just the leadership piece, being a vocal leader, being a guy that brings it every day. I think that's important, and it's something that I've really enjoyed and I'm continuing to look forward to.
Right. Looking at, it's actually interesting because looking over your roster, that you brought what you just said about leadership. Looking over your roster, you guys seem to have a great deal of upside, but you also seem to be a relatively young team. A lot of sophomores, some freshmen. So how do you just kind of touched on it about your role. So I guess what I'll say is, how would you say the team is shaping up? And of the guys who maybe didn't play a ton last season, or the transfers, or the freshmen, is there any one particular guy that's kind of just really made a big leap or surprised you because you've never seen him before and you think he's going to have a big impact this season? And it could be more than one guy,
I think our whole sophomore class has really made a jump, and they had a really good year last year as freshmen. Owen Freeman was freshman of the year in the Big Ten. My brother and Brock Harding and Laji Dembele all had pretty big roles for freshmen in the Big Ten, and they've all really improved. I'm expecting all of them to make huge jumps, and I'm really excited for them. Josh Dix he's going to be a really, really good player for us. I mean, he's he's a great basketball player. He kind of does it all, and I'm excited to see the jump he makes. The freshman that I'm really impressed with has been Cooper Koch. He can really shoot it, makes a ton of plays, and then we got some transfers as well. Seydou Traore and Drew Thelwell are gonna both make big impacts on this team, and they bring. Drew brings experience. He brings leadership and winning, and Seydou just brings like a different level of athleticism than a lot of our guys have. So I'm excited to see how it all kind of comes together, and it's been coming together throughout practice since the summer, and it'll be a fun team to play for.
Yeah, the sophomores on your team are rather impressive. Is Josh a sophomore or a junior?
He's a junior.
Okay. But Owen, analytically, Owen and Josh, are right up there with you, in terms of analytics and efficiency. So impressive stuff. With Tony Perkins and DeSante Bowen leaving, you lost two of your top three guys in terms of assist percentage last season. Brock led the team. You were fourth, so you one above and one below those two guys. In limited minutes last season, Brock displayed great playmaking skills. 38% assist percentage, and I think his assist turnover rate was somewhere between 3 and 4. I mean, it was like off the charts type of assist turnover percentage. So are Brock and Drew going to handle most of the point guard duties for this team? And how much will you figure into that mix as well?
Yeah, Brock's made a huge jump. Obviously, Drew brings that leadership. I think they're both going to, play huge roles on this team. And I've been really impressed with the way that Brock has elevated his game. He obviously, like you said, he passes it really well. He makes smart plays. He can shoot it. He can score. And he's just kind of like a dog mentality out there. So I'm excited to see the jump that he makes. I think, if those two are in foul trouble or aren't able to play or something, Josh can take on that role if he needs to. He does good in that. And then, from there, we can do it by committee. A lot of us played it in high school or AAU, including my brother, who will be on the floor a ton. So we could handle it if need be, but I think those guys got it pretty much taken care of, the point guards that we got.
All right. How fun is it to play with your brother?
It's a ton of fun, and he's made a huge jump. I'm really excited to, get to play a lot with him this year. Obviously, it's hard to play as a freshman, and I had a lot of the minutes at our position, so we didn't get a whole lot of minutes together last year. But, going into this year, I think that was part of my decision to come back, was getting to play with him one more year. And, I think he's going to impress a lot of people. I'm really excited to, see what he does.
I would say, obviously I didn't get as good a look at him as I did you last season, but I would say there are a lot of similarities between your game, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities and there's not. I think he likes to, obviously we both shoot it pretty well. He makes a ton of plays off the dribble. He's kind of known as a really good defender. It's something that he did for us in high school, would take on that responsibility. And, he just does a lot of things. He's very versatile, similar to me. So we learned from the same people. So we have, I guess, a lot of the same traits.
Right. And what about your youngest brother? Where is he still in high school or?
No, I have a younger sister. I don't have a younger brother.
Oh.
She's a golfer. She doesn't even play basketball.
A golfer.
Yeah.
I pegged you. I pegged you for a golfer. Are you?
I am a golfer, yes.
Okay, so Piper is. I read that wrong in your bio. Then I saw siblings, and for some reason I had it in my head. I had in my head it was a boy. It never said boy or girl, but Piper, I guess, would be a girl's name.
Yeah.
So you do or don't play golf? I'm sorry.
I do. I won a state championship in high school playing golf. I won one in basketball, so maybe I'm better golfer. I don't know.
Okay. Did you ever play Dane Goodwin? He's out in your area?
I did not.
Okay. I know Dane's big into golf. So many guys, especially point guards and shooters, seem to love golf.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We have a lot of guys on the team that like to play. We played all summer. We'd have all sorts of different games going on. So
yeah, it's a great game. Great game. All right. So I only got a couple more and then we'll get going. Last season, team failed to make NCAA tournament, and the conference has expanded to 18 teams. So what gives you the confidence that you'll get back to the big dance? What about this particular group gives you confidence you get back to the big dance in March?
Yeah, we made it pretty easily both of my first 2 years. There's always some troubles, but last year, we got off to a really rough start. We were trying to figure out, what guys to play. The new guys were really trying to figure out how to play in the Big Ten. And then, by the time that February rolled around, we went on a huge run. And if not for, maybe a couple bounces, we're probably back in the NCAA tournament. So I was really proud of the way we finished. And I think that taught the guys that we do have a lot about what it takes to win at this level. And, we're bringing a lot of experience back. We're bringing, a lot of really good players back. And I think, with a better start and just an understanding of how the Big Ten works, even though like you said, it is a little different now. It still takes, a really, big toughness and grit to be able to win games in the Big Ten. And I think our guys understand that now. So, I'm really excited for the team we have, and, that's the goal. And, once we win there, or get in there, win some games.
Right. So last question, and you've already shared a few, but please tell us something that most people don't know about you.
Yeah, I guess I'm a golfer. I really enjoy taking physics classes. I'm a finance major at Iowa, but I almost went to Stanford out of high school just to focus on getting a physics degree and playing basketball. I ended up staying home, it was the right decision, but I'm huge into all sorts of science and science fiction stuff.
Right. Awesome. Are you a Star Trek or Star Wars guy?
Star Wars, not even close for me.
I'm an old guy, so I'm Star Trek.
Well, one of the main characters, the bald guy, in Star Trek, he's from Riverside, Iowa, which is 10 minutes away from here. My girlfriend's got a farm there, so we go down there quite a bit.
Oh, nice. Very nice. And please pass along my apologies to Piper. Is she still in school?
She is, yeah. She's a junior in high school.
Okay. All right. So she's got a long way before her. Is she going to play golf in college?
I think that's her goal. I think she can make it, yeah.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
Good. All right, Payton, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, and I wish you and the team the best this season. And please, if you can find the time, love to talk to you after the season while you're going to the combines and stuff like that. Maybe before or after the combine.
Yeah.
It would be great to check in with you again.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, buddy.
With you.
All right, that was a great interview with Payton. Hope we get to talk to him again when he goes through the NBA process. And as always, I want to thank all of our listeners. And if you ever miss an episode, you can get caught up at hoopsprospects.com. We will be back. Actually, yes, still coming back this week. This is the Big 10 episode. So we got the Big 12 and the SEC, and then we'll be all done. So we'll see you soon, folks.